MrBeast used Vercel to host the website. Did you watch that live? What was that like?
He launches his e-commerce website. He's doing a live stream and he has one of the biggest audiences in the world.
What was some fun story that you haven't mentioned about the early days?
I was in this glorious co-working space with what ended up being some of the best startups of our generation. So Instagram was being formed there. Twilio was being formed there.
Paint a bit of that story. Now you freelance a lot.
The internet is not just a fun thing. It's also an economy. It's also a platform. It's where you can get to meet people.
What's some advice you're glad you ignored?
One investor told me one day that
The Canon project builds founding go-to-market and engineering teams for venture-backed startups in San Francisco and New York. They built founding teams at Ramp, Cursor, Decagon, Rogo, and many more, while selectively investing through their flagship venture fund. With over a decade of experience and trusted partnerships across the top 15 US-based venture firms, the Canon project is the premier talent partner for high-slope opportunities in early-stage technology. To learn more, get in touch, or explore roles across a curated list of breakout startups, visit thecanonproject.com. It would be good if you can start as early as possible with maybe your earliest memory from where you grew up and paint a bit of a picture.
Yeah.
You know, what it was like with your parents and, you know, what you did day to day and whatever comes to mind.
For sure. You know, earliest days, I grew up in the outskirts of Buenos Aires in Argentina. So when people think of Buenos Aires, they think of like a really nice city.
Yeah.
But it's huge suburbs outside of Buenos Aires in the province of Buenos Aires. It's a little bit like New York City and New York. And yeah, it was rough in the sense of it was a neighborhood that, you know, almost nobody had a computer in the neighborhood. Very little in terms of like technology, but my parents were engineers, industrial engineer and chemistry engineer for my mom. And my dad specifically always had the vision of software is eating the world. Software is going to eat the world.
Yeah.
And he got us a computer when we were very young, mostly for sort of exploring, playing video games. Like the first thing I remember actually going back to like an old memory was getting new software into the computer was just so fun.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a challenge, right? Like just installing programs. This is even before Windows had the pattern of like next, finish in order to like it was called the wizard. So I was making it easier to install and get software.
Yeah.
Let alone develop it. Like we're doing with Vercel was a challenge at the time. So that was kind of the earliest memory, I think. I remember one day, I always remember the aha moments. And when people are building products, I always encourage them to minimize time to aha.
Yeah.
So like you go to a website and like, how long does it take me to actually grok what you're doing and try it and be like, whoa.
Yeah.
And so I had a few time to aha with like the web was a huge one. So when I was able to get a web server serving PHP files, so rendering a dynamic application, combined with open source. So writing software from nothing, from scratch, difficult. That's why we created V0, make it really easy to go from text to application, right?
Funny story. When you guys first launched V0, I was at the little thing at the Ramp headquarters and I forgot what it was. It was an amazing demo. And I think it didn't work the first time, but I was like, this is super cool. And it was like, it was like a year, 2 years ago, maybe. I don't know, something. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's AI, it's just constant iteration, right? And so going back to those days, you know, that concept of like, I have an idea, I'm going to write software. You could think months, weeks, especially if you're learning. But open source was a shortcut because you could fork something. You could grab some source code, download it, and run it. And that was a huge moment for me.
Yeah.
It was specifically with PHP-based forums. So there's a technology called PHP BB. You could like clone this repo, not even repos. You download a zip file, uncompress it, and now you had working software that you actually knew how to modify. That there was a path where like you'd open a file, open the theme, and start tinkering with it. Those are like the memories that I have that are that I'm the most fond of.
That's fun. And you had an older brother, right? Still do, obviously.
Yes.
How was it like growing up with him? And I looked a bit into him. He is equally as interesting as you and has worked at a variety of great companies. What was that contrast like?
It was so fun. I've never talked about this, but it's so funny. We had so much, my brother and I had a lot of competitions, like who would learn this technology first. I became more of the engineer brother. He became more of the design.
Yeah.
So over time, I always tell people that AI is forcing a coalescing of skill set.
Yeah.
All of us are becoming more full stack. we're designing, we're engineering, we're marketing, we're doing comms, we're going direct, whatever is, the hottest thing. And at the time, we were sort of forking our skill set.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, very focused on making pages look awesome, feel good. And I was more on like, how do we make them work? How do we set up the databases? How do we do Linux administration? Like all that kind of stuff.
That's fun. And how old are you when you got that first computer?
I was probably 7 or 8 years old when that computer first arrived to the household.
Yeah.
And then we got several over the years because it would break down or we needed an upgrade. One of the key moments was when I started building websites around my interests, which is an exercise that I'm now doing with my own kids. We're building games together on V0.
Awesome.
But we would build websites for my anime interests, for like Dragon Ball. That was one of my killer websites.
Did you read a bunch of the comics?
Yeah. So we had, there would be all this like hosting solutions. There was one called GeoCities, and you would write the HTML, you would upload it. And then there were dynamic widgets. A common one that you still see in some like nostalgia designed websites is the visitor counter. So it was basically an animated GIF that you could inject into your page. Every time it would get rendered, it would bump the counter on the back end. So the next visitor would see the updated visit count.
What was the highest visit count?
Well, I mean, my website had like very little, of course, but it was like the thrill of... Actually, I would say something that connects back to the origin of Vercel is the thrill of dynamism. The thrill that this is not just a static page. And there were two components like that. One was the visitor counter, and there was the guest book. So you would upload your HTML page, and then you would include an iframe or a script to bring in the dynamic guest book. And then people would come to your site and leave a note. And back then, I think there were a lot fewer trolls on the internet. Actually, funny enough, scaling these two things is non-trivial. Vercel just launched a product to help mitigate bots. Like the first thing that would happen if you put in a visitor counter or a guest book is you get botted. And you get spam, you get nastiness. So yeah, in many ways, I think it's amazing how the internet has evolved so much, but the same things that got me excited about Vercel are sort of the same things that I experienced in my childhood.
That's fun. Well, I want to take that original moment with you getting a laptop and paint the story from there to, present day Vercel. So that story in between, I think now from there it'd be good to touch a bit on, your high school experience. I know you transferred a bit and then you eventually went to Switzerland. Let's start near the beginning of high school, maybe middle school, etc., and paint a bit of that story. I know you freelance a lot, so tell us.
I mean, those were crazy days, man. So my very first experience with making money online was I built a very simple website that was referring traffic to the Amazon of Argentina, Mercado Libre. And even looking back, I'm a little astonished that I even made the whole thing work because each referral would get me 5 pesos, if I remember correctly, which was like infinite money for a 11, 12-year-old. I think I'm pretty sure it was 11.
And how much older is your brother?
My brother is 2 years older.
Okay. You guys are doing this together or no?
This project I actually did it by myself.
Okay.
Like the funny thing that I always remind people about the learning journey is, especially when you're young, is not continuous. It's not this and actually I would argue even in adulthood, it's not that it's a straight line to success where each day you add 10 points of knowledge. I would go through phases of like tremendous progress, like building this little business, and then it would get distracted or like whatever, like going back to like what a child does. And so I had this always this journey. And so that was an important one because it dislodged something in my head of like the internet is not just a fun thing. It's also an economy. It's also a platform. It's where you can get to meet people. I remember the program manager for the referral system called me one day, and I was so intimidated. I was like a little kid receiving a phone call from an adult running a business. He actually called me because I was asking so many questions in their online forums. It was like I might just call the guy. So then a couple years later, the big other breakthrough was the freelancing thing. So I was 12 and I started noticing that all of these skills that had built up, on online forums, IRC servers, online communities could be used to do some work online. And Argentina has always had this issue of the currency disparity, like permanent inflation.
Mm-hmm.
You still hear about it on the news, and a very weak peso relative to the dollar.
Yeah.
And so if I could make money in dollars, I could help my family.
Yeah.
And so that's effectively what happened. Argentina's economy is super unstable. There would be years where there were good years for my family where my dad would buy the computer.
Yeah.
It's like, nice, we're doing well. Next year, economic crisis, we're not doing so well. Budget's tight.
Yeah.
And so during those times, I was able to provide some help for the family. But the thing where like all of my interests were starting to compete and collide was I was trying to be the best student I could.
Yeah.
And I was going to I was applying for a very cool high school that had an entry exam and a competition to get in. And I was like studying like crazy. That's where I suspended all my progress. I was like, I'm going to go all in on math, literature, geography, history, which are the areas of this exam. When I got into high school, all of my freelance clients kept coming back to me with like, we want to give you more work,
Did they know your age or no? They're like, this guy must be in his 20s.
Well, one of them actually eventually found out because we were doing so much business together. He was based in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And his markup of my work must have been insane, but I was also making a killing because I was making money in dollars and whatever. It's like, and this is actually when one of my childhood fights with my brother was starting to act almost like the project manager.
Yeah.
And I was doing a lot of the coding, and like this is when I learned about commitment. My brother would say yes, and I would say like I was also very excitable. So at some points we're like, well, I also need to go to schools. Like where do I draw the line here? Another big moment you mentioned laptop. When I first got my MacBook, that was a huge deal, and I use this as an example to remind people of the value of tools that you love. The value of developer experience, the value of something that motivates you to do your best work. The reason that I got a MacBook was not because I wanted Macintosh, was not because of the laptop itself. I wanted a specific text editor that everybody was using and everyone was excited about it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Called TextMate.
That's funny.
So TextMate was this delightful experience for writing code. And I got my laptop, I got TextMate, and then I kept being pulled into this work of like making open source contributions. And then eventually what it led to is that I kind of like abandoned high school and I dropped out.
What did your parents think? Because they're software engineers.
No, my parents, so my dad was an aspirational software engineer. So this is actually a very interesting skill. He was an idea guy. He was like, I know that that's the future. Even to the detriment of his own career in a way, because like, he always felt like he would tell me, I chose the wrong degree.
And so what did he do again?
So industrial engineering. So a lot about like systems and planning and processes, optimization and whatever. I mean, skill sets that actually help you think and reason about software, but not software itself.
Did he have any takes that were accurate?
He had a lot of hot takes about software.
Okay.
So like one day he'd be like, I just read that Java is going to be the future. And that's actually when I started having disagreements with my dad. Like he was convinced that it was going to be systems like Java and C# and whatever. And I bet on the web. My brother and I, we started noticing that the agility of creating on the web, the developer experience of the web, the demand that we're seeing, even in this little like, and of course, these are all emergent insights. It's not like we're sitting down doing like reviews of like the business and whatever. Like the world was pulling us towards open source and the web. And so there was this critical project that I started contributing to when I was 15, 16 years old called Mootools. It was a library for creating user interfaces on the web. And that created a very significant next step in my journey because this project started catching the attention of so many global companies. At the time, I was still working with like freelance clients, people that wanted to deploy little like CRM systems on the web, maybe like a custom internal tool. Those were kind of my gig.
How were you even getting these clients? You're reaching out to them, or what was the process?
So funny enough, I've always loved a good competition. So the freelance website I was using at the time it was like eBay in a way. Like you would do a job and people would leave you a review. And I had one of the best profiles. So I didn't have a huge amount of reviews because I was noticing I was competing with like groups of people. But my reviews were stellar.
Yeah.
Like every time 5 out of 5 stars and like really nice comments from the clients. And so like I just had like more work than I could even answer.
That's fun.
But also one of the really interesting things that happened, and I encourage people to reflect on this, is when you're doing a task, if there's something about the task that gets you particularly excited, then maybe that side quest becomes your main quest.
Yeah.
And pay attention to those signals. And for me, one of those was, I would have a client come in and say, again, I need an order taking form, or I need to manage inventory on a website. And I noticed that I was getting excited by things like optimizing the performance of the interface, making sure that the interface didn't refresh the entire page whenever you could change or remove items from the list. I started getting into technologies like Ajax and making the interface richer and more real time. And so I started pulling from that thread. When I was building the systems for clients, I was sort of like going above and beyond and building these amazing interfaces. And then the world of front end and obsessing over product quality started pulling me in. And that's what led to getting into the world of Mootools. There's almost like this fragmentation that happened. I could have gone deeper into sort of like, I don't know, like the backend, database world, whatever. Or I could go deeper into the front end and what makes the experience outstanding. And I think I look back and like I place an asymmetric bet, because at the time people were saying, well, JavaScript is it's not a very good language. It's not going to take off. My dad had this opinion. Like, he's like, yeah, JavaScript seems cool, but maybe you should look into Java.
Yeah.
It's more of a grown-up language. So by betting on the underdog that was JavaScript and betting on the fact that the browser could do more, a huge inspiration, one of those fondest memories that I had is I was in high school and we were in IT class, and Gmail had come out, and getting the invite into, like, Gmail did this like amazing campaign of like very limited early access.
Yeah.
And getting into Gmail in the early days was like a huge badge of honor. Especially because even today, like, you sometimes get an email from somebody and they're like, wait, John@gmail.com? Like, how did he get Sean@gmail.com, right? And so it was the excitement over getting in the early days of Gmail. But like the thing that made Gmail really stand out was, this is a desktop grade application, not website, running inside the web browser. And that was hugely validating and inspiring for the sets of bets that I was making. That the web was not just going to be a document transfer platform. To the extent that even some people hold that view of the web today, right? Like, I always point out to people, the reason that Chrome took off is they invested in taking the web really seriously, turning it into an application platform. If you use Safari, it feels like you're using a digital book.
Yeah.
Like the gestures of like moving the pages around.
It's terrible.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Like, Apple's point of view on the web is like, let's keep it in this box of, it's like for reading ebooks almost.
So what are your thoughts on the like AI browsers? I know Professor released comment.
I'm really excited about infusing AI into basically everything we do, because the best example that I can think of is going to specifically to the browser point. When Firefox came out, the killer feature of Firefox was tabbed navigation. You could, so Internet Explorer, anytime you had a link, it would either be in place in the window that you were in, like a normal link. If you opened it because you wanted to do two things at the same time, it would become another browser instance in your task manager.
Oh, that's annoying.
Annoying AF.
Yeah.
Like, a classic view that I'm now picturing in my head was like 200 Internet Explorers at the bottom of my screen. And so the killer feature of Firefox was like, sure, operating systems can deal with multitasking and managing many open things at one time. But the browser itself, it's so common that you want to be in many places at the same time. So they created the tabs.
Yeah. So,
And I don't know, by the way, in terms of like browser history 101, if like they were exactly the first. Certainly, I personally moved to Firefox because tabs were a critical feature. So if you think about what we've been doing with the web browsers, we've been seeking more and more efficiency with it. We've been trying to do more with it. We've been trying to do more at the same time with it. So tabs and having multiple things open at the same time is almost like primitive agents, right? It's like, I'm going to be the one that is going to parallelize some work. And I still need to do all the clicking.
Yeah.
Now, let's think about Google, right? Okay, so a killer thing that you could do with tabs plus Google is you get 10 links and you open 5 of them. And then you go very quickly through them. In fact, a prosumer of the web browser knows all the hotkeys. Firefox popularized that command 1, 2, 3, etc. allows you to very quickly sift through these tabs. Now, let's look at the deep research functionality that you're seeing in chatbots like Grok and ChatGPT, etc., and Perplexity. Now, that work that I was manually doing myself of opening multiple tabs and clicking on multiple things and digesting them is being done by an agent. And I think that's been one of the critical evolutions of what I call the transition from assistants to agents.
That's awesome.
The first presentation of ChatGPT was question answer.
Yeah.
The second big leap has been question answer fast loops that you don't even see because it's the agent that is sort of going off and performing an entire task for you. And researching things is one of the most common things we do every day. But why stop at researching, right? I think we should use this metaphor of there was this killer thing that we empowered a human to do, opening multiple websites very quickly. Now it can be done by an agent. And so one of the things that we do every day when we use a web browser is we research things. But what are the other things that you do? Or the push that I give people is there's always some kind of output. There's some gold at the end of this rainbow. You're not researching just for, frankly, I actually do this. I sometimes do research for the sake of research. I sometimes tell people, like, one of my hobbies is reading Wikipedia articles. If I need to relax at home and open, like, I don't know, like, what was the origin of natural sciences? And read the whole history of it, like, just for fun. But when we do work, when we need to perform some tasks, when we have a question from a peer, we do research to produce some sort of output. This is why we created V0, because the idea is that you chat with this agent, you put in some screenshot, resources, prompts, in order to create an application. In fact, to even emphasize this contrast between assistants and agents, when ChatGPT first came out, all of us were excited that it knew a lot about coding. It's like, oh, this thing can generate code. And we would go to ChatGPT and use it in assistant mode. So tell me about how to do this thing with JavaScript. Boom, code. That was kind of the Stack Overflow killer, right? Like we used to open tabs in Firefox to go to Stack Overflow, to go to W3 Schools, to go to Mozilla Developer Network and get API information. Next step, we go to ChatGPT and it tells us exactly the digested version of it. Next step, you could argue, is deep research. And I do that still from time to time. But again, if I'm doing deep research about code, it's because I'm creating something. And so V0 is cutting straight to the chase. Instead of giving you momentary answers, we produce a full application. I think that's going to continue to happen with a lot of the things that we do with browsers. And so some of that might take the form of browser native AI capabilities, where maybe there's 4 or 5 applications that you routinely use, right? And you tell the browser, all right, do them for me. What you need to be very sensitive to is latency, performance, how good it feels, how reliable it is. So when something is more of a category, like application building is in the case of V0, I think that'll take the form of a discrete agent. You will go to quote unquote agent.com. V0, GC.ai for lawyers, Harvey, etc. Like I like giving those examples of like there's some vertical and some expertise, and you go to those assistants. I think there's going to be a long tail that we're going to solve through systems like Comet and Operator and Director by browser base, where there's no exact shape. Manus AI is another example. You just tell the thing, go and use tools and solve this problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
But what's becoming very clear is the web will be agentic. It's going to be us interacting with agents that interact with the rest of the internet.
Yeah.
MCPs, other agents, knowledge retrieval, and maybe operating web browsers and computers.
It's pretty awesome. Have you seen Profound? It's a New York-based company.
Yes.
They I think are phenomenal in regards to agents doing the actual autonomous work and researching.
Yeah, anything that involves agents, I think, has a huge opportunity to specialize. So whether it's a new kind of user interface flow, I think it's actually still really important that people are in the loop about the reasoning trace of the agent and looking up references.
Yeah.
Fact checking, understanding how did this answer come to be. And so, for example, for healthcare professionals, I totally want my doctor to be empowered by agents. But I also wanted to have a highly specialized tool with very rigorous evaluations. And I think this should inspire entrepreneurs because, yes, my doctor could use ChatGPT, but put yourself in the shoes of the patient. Like, would you rather them use? And this happens a lot with, you see threads on Twitter where like ChatGPT gets something wrong. And then there is a reply guy that says, but weren't you using 04 plus Mini 3 with the right context in this GPT installed? It's like, yeah, my doctor might just not figure that out. So I'd rather them go to like doctor.ai and have a very
very special.
And you could even take that further. We have customers that are making AI applications for radiology. We have customers that are making AI agents for helping patients streamline the process of getting approval for a treatment. Or getting their IV infusion at the clinic point. So those kinds of very specialized processes, I think, will always benefit from having agents that optimize for performance and, most importantly, correctness.
Makes sense. I want to zoom a bit back now before we build up more to the present day. You eventually left high school. What was that, transition like? And then you got to SF. Tell a bit more about those few years.
People love asking about this because it sounds weird, like high school dropout to entrepreneur. I think it's a good soundbite for press and whatever. But I'll tell you, it was very unclear. I loved my education, so I want to point that out because as an aspiring role model to others that want to follow a journey like this, I'm very thankful to my high school teachers, to the fact that they were giving us university-grade courses in high school. I got exposure to chemistry, physics, accounting, everything I took an enormous amount of value from. And so by the time I did make the decision to drop out, there was a lot of meat on the bones. I wasn't just like, I don't like school.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially now, they move to SF or somewhere else with the sake of starting a company, but with no real, thoughtfulness to it. They leave education.
And I didn't have entire thoughtfulness, but I think you need, like, I've been using this metaphor of like things that are pulling you.
Yeah.
I like this idiom of like, people don't have ideas, ideas have people. Like there was something about the front end engineering world that was pulling me. There was open source that was pulling me. I was getting these emails from Meta, it was even called Meta, Facebook recruiters, when it was a tiny company. I was 17 years old. So there were all these like little signals. I think the irresponsible thing would have been to like, well, I have not much going on. I have little interest in motivation in education. And I just want to like, do my own thing.
Yeah.
And you need a healthy amount of that. I think you need a healthy amount of naivete. I always kind of remind myself like the best way to go into a new space like AI is with a healthy amount of naivete and aspirations for the future, grand aspirations for the future. So by the time I dropped out, I had all those signals. I had parents that were supportive because they'd already seen those signals themselves.
And you were supporting them at this point, right?
Exactly. So I was helping out in family financials. I was wowing them in so many ways, right? I was like, okay, there is something real here. And so my parents were like totally embracing and accepting with a healthy, again, dose of like, I'm sure like some fear and whatnot. But yeah, so, and by the way, I'd also proved to them that if I put my mind to education, I could get extraordinary results.
Yeah.
So I do hear about other journeys of people that are high school dropouts or college dropouts. And I do sometimes hear like, at the beginning I was doing amazing, and then something else got my attention. I'm more sus if like the journey is like, well, like I was struggling with calculus, I was struggling with programming, and I was struggling with this and that, and like, oh, then I decided to drop out. Like, I don't know. You know, you have to be balanced.
Makes sense. And so you eventually moved to Switzerland for, I think, 1 year, right?
Yeah, it was, you know, a lot of trips back and forth. My journey with entrepreneurship has always been difficult insofar like I was a global citizen in a way, right? Like it was very hard to always get visas and whatnot. So all of these companies wanted to hire me and work full time. Very quickly, I impressed them so much that I had an opportunity to get a work visa, which they were telling me, and I think is probably true given Switzerland, very hard to get in Switzerland. And so I dropped out from high school. And a couple years later, I already had like the opportunity to get immigration paperwork done to live in Switzerland and work there full time. And yet I turned that down, I remember actually exactly where I was. I was here in San Francisco. That startup had launched here in SF. They invited me here. And I remember I was right by the Bay Bridge. It was a beautiful sunny day. It's like hard to compete with San Francisco that day. And the CEO of the Swiss company pulls me aside and he's like, we want you in full time, and I can get you in. I can help with lawyers, paperwork, everything. We'll make it happen. And that was truly a hard decision for me. The company was amazing. The CEO was extremely supportive. If you've ever been to Lausanne, Switzerland, it's one of the most idyllic, beautiful places in the world.
Is that company still around today?
They had a good outcome. They went through the classic consumer enterprise. You can call it pivot. You can call it, you know, like understanding the market better for what they were doing. And then eventually they sold. And I think I would have learned amazing things to the company, and I could have contributed to its success. I always remind people, when you join a startup, you're not betting on the startup. You're betting on yourself. Join startups where you think you have a high degree of agency and influence and vision over the outcomes, right? And I think I could have helped and provided that. But on the other hand, I'd seen what SF looked like. I'd seen the networks. I'd seen the excitement. I'd seen how vibrant it was.
What was SF like at that time? Who'd you meet? Do you have any
mentors? Well, again, it was hard to compete with the situation that they put me in. Unfortunately for them, I was in this glorious co-working space with what ended up being some of the best startups of our generation, like Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
So Instagram was being formed there. Twilio was being formed there.
Where was this co-working space?
Say again?
Where was the co-working space?
This is called Dogpatch Labs. It was on the Embarcadero.
Is it still around?
So the building obviously is still around because it's one of those big pier buildings. So funny enough, SF has always had this like, have you seen the meme of a guy that's on a bicycle?
Yeah.
And then he puts a rod in his own wheel, and then he falls, and then he's complaining that he fell. Governments can be like that, right? So the SF government shut down that entire location almost overnight. It wasn't up to code. And I can legitimately believe it wasn't up to code, right? But like, I don't know. I feel like in engineering, I always think of like iterative paths to success. I think they could have figured out how to keep it up.
Yeah, they just shut it down.
They shut it down. It was like this magical place. Maybe we should bring it back. Everyone's listening. Like the fact that you provide people with the beautiful, inspiring environment goes back to like, I loved my MacBook with my TextMate, even though I was in this like tiny little room in our apartment in Argentina, like it wasn't like a beautiful outside environment, and the family was going through ups and downs. I had my like beautiful like atmosphere for work, and in SF I had my beautiful atmosphere for work here, by the water. And so that was the conversation I had with the CEO. I was like, oh man, like I don't know, everything just is it's so well set up for me to focus on my thing, on my craft, on the opportunity to invest more in open source arise, because when I was building so eventually I left that startup, started my own, and I started building a lot of open source software, and investors were supportive of that. They started realizing, wait, this open source thing obviously doesn't have a direct business model. But now, for example, when I released Socket.io, when I released Mongoose. Those were projects that I was building for my own startup. I was the CTO. When I open sourced them, I immediately got the world's attention. And think about this. Even today, I think people are coming to terms with this. Attention is part of all you need.
Yeah.
When you build a startup.
Yeah.
You could build great technology, but if you don't get
some sort of distribution,
some kind of attention.
Yeah.
I don't even call it distribution. I literally mean attention. Meaning distribution is, I don't know, I attach myself to a marketplace or I built a Vercel integration. Therefore, Vercel users can install me, plug for startup builders, like build on our marketplace. But this is literally just like making the world aware that you exist. And so open source emerged as that. And, you know, like I could have kept the code to myself and it would have died there, I guess. Obviously, there were some competitive advantages to it. We built a great product with it. But ultimately, the potential for open source to put you on the map, to build community, to enable faster business development. An open source project is worth 10 million meetings, right?
Yeah.
That meeting could have been a push. That meeting could have been a PR. That meeting could have been a ship of sorts. And so the environment here was so supportive of my interests and the way that I wanted to build that I unfortunately had to turn down that offer and I went all in and created my own startup.
Makes sense. What was maybe some fun story that you haven't mentioned too much about the early days?
Oh man, so many. I was so locked in that I only had 2 meals. One was like, I loved McDonald's and people would like people would make fun of this because I was in extremely good shape. So I would hit the gym every day or almost every other day. And again, like I wasn't like the perfect like aspirate. I wasn't Brian Johnson. I would go through ups and downs and like everybody, right? But like I would just have this like streamlined life that would help me optimize for doing my thing. And I loved it. Like I didn't need to like go to like, you know, 10 different restaurants every day or DoorDash or whatever. I was just like locked in either the buffet at the co-working space when it was available or McDonald's and just focus on work. And also like, you know, I have this like Warren Buffett belief of like people fixate too much on like what's healthy, what's not healthy. If you're exercising and if you're having the, you know, social life and you're doing stuff you love and don't overthink things too much. Just find that community and connection with others. I just think like that environment, like I have another funny anecdote of would work very late and sometimes I would go to the pier. So like leave the little office, go to the pier. And we always find the CEO of Twilio. Dude, this guy was a working machine. He was my inspiration. And by the way, he was always, by the time, terminally online. So he knew a lot of my open source projects. He would ask about Socket.io. Another funny anecdote was there were people that, so this co-working space was right next to the Giants stadium, the baseball stadium. There were people that would get season passes and their entire life would revolve around baseball. And they became our friends. I would be like working on open source or whatever. I would leave, like walk 5 feet and greet them and would like hang out. Like it was like, I was be reminded like our lives are so different, but we're both here in San Francisco. I've always loved that about the city. Like people from all walks of life, different interests, different lifestyles, but all in one place. They became our friends outside of the startup world. Like getting to know them and they'd be obsessed with baseball, right? Like remembering every stat, every little thing. And I personally couldn't care less for baseball because like I was like, I'm from Argentina, just like football, soccer. But yeah.
Do you still keep in touch with Tevin Systrom and the early Instagram guys?
Mikey, we connected immediately at that co-working space because he had worked for a company called Meebo, or I believe it was called. It was one of the first instant messengers on the web. Think of it as like even an early predecessor to Messenger and WhatsApp, but it looked more like a desktop app running inside a web browser. So it looked a little bit like AOL Messenger or like maybe the best metaphor was like a hybrid of like WhatsApp and Slack running inside a web browser. This is like really early days of being able to do real-time communication. inside the web browser. So we bonded immediately because I was working on Socket.io to enable real-time communication, and he'd shipped it to prod.
Oh, wow.
So not Socket.io, but he'd shipped the same fundamental set of techniques to enable a web browser in those days to be able to support a chat application.
Yeah.
And I had a huge amount of respect for that. I was like, it's like name recognizing game. I was like, I know your pain. And now he's become the CPO of Anthropic, and we have a really extensive collaboration and partnership with them, and we use their models for a bunch of things, and they use Next.js to power Claude, and so it's amazing how long we've been in the arena together.
I love it. I love it. I want to touch on maybe a couple more anecdotes and then some broader questions to that because we're coming up on time. MrBeast, when he hit around 100 million subscribers, he had used Vercel to host the website and sell all these t-shirts.
It was amazing.
Did you watch that live? What was that like?
That was an amazing day because one of the most rewarding things of building platforms and infrastructure is that every day is like a new journey of like, what are people doing with my platform? Like in both positive and negative ways, believe it or not, right? Like you get the full exposure of the entire noise of the internet on your platform, and you get attacks, which is why we're so invested in cybersecurity, because we have to protect our customers. It's a freedom platform. Like the web is free. Our platform is free, right? And the positive things is that you just never know what people are going to create. You don't know what customer you're going to get. One day you wake up and your favorite brand decided to use Vercel. Like I really like Supreme. So Supreme.com is an OL. Imagine waking up one day and you didn't do anything. Meaning like I never met that team. It's a combination of the bottoms up motion plus my emergent cracked sales engineering and go-to-market team. But this is like one of the coolest things of building this kind of software. And, or I'll age myself here. Like one of my favorite bands is Air. They're a Daft Punk-ish style band. I clarify because I would expect everyone to know because I love it so much, but not everyone knows. And I went to their website the other day and I was like, oh, cool. And it's built on Vercel. That's awesome. And so MrBeast was a similar surprise because, and it's a very positive surprise because not only that this creator that everybody knows and he's famous, whatever, uses Vercel, is that he uses Vercel at an extraordinary scale. He launches his e-commerce website and he's doing a live stream and he has one of the biggest audiences in the world. And they're all going to arrive to this website at the same time. That's awesome. And so for Vercel to be able to have that proof point, not only that, but now they've built View Stats, which is his new business. And this kind of gives you an idea of the versatility of these platforms, right? Because they can support you do your personal website on Vercel, you create an AI platform like V0 on Vercel, you can do e-commerce on Vercel, and now MrBeast has launched a really amazing SaaS on Vercel. So View Stats helps YouTubers understand audience patterns, how many followers or subscribers are getting, how many subscribers or competitors are getting, his trends forecast. He even launched an AI feature that became hugely controversial, which was generate a thumbnail with AI. Oh, wow. And it became hugely controversial because, to my surprise, some of the world still doesn't embrace the fact that AI is this tool like anything else, and you can use it in ways that are, negative, and you can use it in ways that are positive. So when he launched the thumbnailing tool, people were like, "Oh, that means that people are going to copy thumbnails and whatever," just like ChatGPT, right? And so, but I was, really impressed that a creator on YouTube went from videos to e-com, to SaaS, to AI on Vercel. It's pretty cool. Phenomenal. And it's all emergent. Yeah, I like it. Well, to close off, I have a bit of broader questions, and I like to ask most people this. One is pulled from this guy named Patrick O'Shaughnessy. He has a podcast called Invest Like the Best, and he always asks people, what's the kindest thing somebody has done for you? Kindest thing? Well, what really comes to mind is a friend of mine that was very influential in the early days of JavaScript, Node.js, and bringing it to the server side, right? So like one of the pivotal moments in my career was I had become a cracked front-end engineer. And now I realize I can use the same language to become a cracked back-end engineer and do everything with JavaScript. And that was because of the work of Michael Rogers and Ryan Dole. Michael Rogers, unfortunately, just passed away from battle with cancer at 42 years old. And he was one of the kindest human beings that helped me with my immigration, with spreading my open source projects, contributing to my open source projects. But one of the things that I remember vividly, and this is the beauty of being in San Francisco, one day he hits me up, and I was working on Vercel like nonstop, like 20 hours a day. And he hits me up. He loved food. He was a foodie. He wasn't like me, like, it's just like McDonald's. He was like, no, I'm going to take you to this like gourmet new kind of fusion sandwich place that just emerged. I was like, okay, Michael, we'll go. And then I always would end up liking it. But I remember in that conversation, he points out a flaw in the platform. And he points out and he point blank tells me, and for this thing, I'm going to use your competitor. I was like, but Michael, we're friends. And I actually think it was one of the greatest acts of kindness that he's like, look, you can continue to work.
Yeah.
And if you don't fix that thing, even I'm going to tell you I'm going to use your product.
That's awesome.
And that's the ultimate, like, candid. That's what you want from a friend. Like, that's what you want from a customer. Last night someone asked me, like, I love Vercel. It's been transformative for my startup. What can I do for you? And I told them, whenever something goes wrong or whenever you think of using somebody else, tell me point blank, you suck. Yeah. And of course, like, you say it in a nice voice, right? But like, I think for entrepreneurs, like, that's what helps us the most. The framework that I give people is, it's not just about speed, it's iteration velocity. Velocity is the speed with a direction. You don't want to be the crazy person who just like runs and plays and like it's euphoric but doesn't go anywhere. So he helped me. It was extremely kind, and unsolicited. Just hit you up. Like, I'll help you out.
That's good. And I guess the last question to close: what's some advice you wish or you're glad you ignored?
Oh man, like, advice is one of the hardest things in the world because it's so easy to give. And my mental model is always take it all in, process it, prioritize it, right? One investor told me one day that technologies, it wasn't advice, it was more so like, he was like, this, it was almost like what my dad believed in a way, like, this JavaScript thing, I don't know, man, like, it seems like every week people change their mind about it, like, it doesn't have any enduring power. And when you hear things like that from an authority, this is why, like, an entrepreneur has to be a little bit of a rebel.
Yeah.
I heard it from an authority of my dad. I heard it from an authority of a guy that writes $10 million checks and whatever.
I tell them to believe it.
But you have to be careful because I've gotten so much wisdom from investors. Like, people are so extreme about this. Like, VCs are either the greatest thing in the world or they're worthless. And everything has nuance to it. And I've had so much incredible advice from board members of Vercel. But I've also had really bad advice. And so, again, like, you have to internalize it. I always think customers are your main investors, especially in the early days. Your platform is going to have a lot of rough edges. So the customer is actually investing in you. Yeah. And so I take their advice even more close to my heart than almost anybody else.
That's awesome. I love it. And I guess as a final close, pitch Vercel to the world. Why should people join Vercel? What is Vercel, TLDR, all that?
I think it's a platform where you can make your dreams come true. Like, forget about the technology. Is you have an idea, you want to bring it to life on the internet. Vercel will promise you we'll try our hardest to build the best tools, frameworks, infrastructure, AIs to make that happen.